Hi everybody, welcome to the second day of KHS 325, Exploring the Science of Sport, Health, and Wellness. Thank you for your flexibility today. As a reminder, I am not on campus. I am attending the NCAA National Convention in Baltimore, representing our athletic department. So it's not ideal for me to be missing the second day of class, but this virtual lecture will take the place of our class and tee you up to getting started with the content in our class. So let's get started. Our agenda for today includes answering some clarifications on the class content, syllabus, and class flow. Then we'll start with an Introduction to Kinesiology Module 1 summary, and then you will have an assignment to earn your participation points today in the form of a reflection on this video with some pre-planned reflection questions. As I mentioned in class on Tuesday, there are 10 modules in this full semester long class. So each module focuses on a different aspect or different discipline of kinesiology. Now these modules are not exhaustive. This doesn't mean that these are the end all be all of dimensions or disciplines of kinesiology. They're just what we've chosen to focus on for this class content. But within each of those 10 modules, there will be readings that you do on your own. There will be an assignment for each module, and that'll be due at the end of the time that we've covered the module. There will be a multiple choice quiz on each module. We will have in-class lectures covering the material in the module, and then also in-class applications or scenarios or small group learning opportunities. So we will work through one module at a time. Most modules will be 2 days or 3 days worth of coverage for us. So my goal is to have most of our due dates be pretty consistent, even though some of the modules will overlap for more than 1 week. For this class, you do not have a textbook. Your textbook is the readings that are located in my courses. So this is a screenshot of a class from last year, but you can imagine the 2025 dates have the 2026 dates instead. When you click on the content bar on the top left, there will be different folders underneath on the left-hand side. Your course essentials is where you'll find the syllabus, the class outline, the assessments, the class expectations. Then there will be a folder or a pull-down menu for class PowerPoints. That is where those will be stored. I will post those before each of the lectures every day. And then you will see each of the modules in their own folder as well. So right now we're on Module 1, Introduction to Kinesiology. And you as a student will then click through and read through all of the reading materials that are included within that module. There's a knowledge check that is ungraded, but that's just a way for you to check what you've read. There's 1 or 2 of those within each module. There's some reflection questions that ask you to think about the material. And then at the bottom of each module, you will see a folder or a page for additional readings, more readings. So those are external readings. Sometimes they're research articles, sometimes they're short videos. So you'll want to take a look at those for the module. Then you will also see your module assignment and your module quiz located within each module. You can also find your assignments and your quizzes by clicking on the Tools button and then choosing assignments or quizzes. Keep in mind the due dates for each of those will go along with each of the modules we're covering. If you have questions on navigation for this course, for my courses, we'll be able to connect next week. So let's get started with Module 1. If you've already looked through the reading materials, you have maybe a little bit better idea of what kinesiology means, but here are 2 reflection questions that I want you to take some time to think about. So if you have a piece of paper handy, that's great. Otherwise, if you want to open up a electronic Word document or notes, you certainly can do that as well. The 2 questions I'm asking you to think about is, what do you think of when you hear the word kinesiology? And then question number 2, what fascinates you most about the study of human movement? There's no right or wrong answers here. I don't want you Googling any answers. I just want you to think off the top of your head. What do you think of when you hear the word kinesiology? Maybe you say that just sounds like a fancy word for science. Maybe you've never heard that word before. So go ahead and write down your answers to what do you think of when you hear a word for the word kinesiology, and then what fascinates you most about the study of human movement. Feel free to pause the video and reflect on these two questions. We can't understand the science of kinesiology without having a little bit of the history of kinesiology first. So, it's an old science, although it wasn't necessarily called a science at the time. It started way back with the ancient Greeks, where they studied the human body and movements. They laid the foundation for kinesiology, and they created the first modern Olympics. So they were very interested in the way that the human body moves and how it can be used for competition as well. In the 17th and 18th centuries, we had more anatomical studies. So scientists were, for lack of a better word, experimenting or dissecting humans to see how does our body work on the inside. We now know about the different systems of the body and that we have muscles and bones and blood vessels. But previous to us doing those experiments, right, people didn't know how the human body necessarily worked. So in the 17th and 18th centuries, anatomical studies, drawings of the human body, the understanding of the inner workings of the human body. In the 19th century, there was more exploring of the nervous system's role in human movement. So not just what's below the head, but how did the brain interact and connect with the human body to create movement. So the body moves, but the brain is actually controlling it. So much more exploration of what does the nervous system do? What is its job in the role of human movement? In the early 20th century, it turned into more of a distinct discipline. It took a look at things like motor learning and biomechanics. So the picture on the left of the baby learning how to walk, we now take that for granted that we will learn these behaviors, right? How to walk, how to ride a bike, how to talk, how to write with a pencil. But the early 20th century really discovered the science behind how we learn to do things and the biomechanics of things. So things like physics and Newton's laws of motion, things that stay in motion, start in motion, stay in motion, force, mass, acceleration. Those types of things turned into much more of a science in the earliest 20th century. In the mid 20th century, it really gained prominence. Kinesiology really gained prominence as a quote unquote science. There was much more scientific approaches to movement and health. This picture on the right-hand side is children engaged in a physical activity class. Physical education really found its way into schools after World War II to ensure that our population was healthy and ready to defend itself, for better or worse. That's kind of the history of how physical education started, was getting our American population ready for any threats that might be coming its way. Now, in the 21st century, the late 21st century, we have, well, I shouldn't say late 21st century, but into the 2000s and beyond, there's other subfields or sub-disciplines like exercise science, rehabilitation, sports psychology. So this picture is of a personal trainer or a fitness coach working with somebody doing a mobility exercise. Much, much more science has backed up the whole idea of the human body as a machine and learning how to use it efficiently. So we have things now, technology advances like motion capture and artificial intelligence, virtual reality. All of those things have helped advance the field of kinesiology from where it started with the ancient Greeks, just studying the human movements of the body, to now much more science and data-backed decisions get made, and many more technological advancements get made for us to really make the body move the most efficiently it can. So kinesiology has a long and storied history becoming a science. The disciplines that are mentioned in Module 1 are listed here on this slide, and I like to think about research as the big umbrella of all of the disciplines. We wouldn't know anything about any of these things, anatomy or motor learning or sport management, if we didn't have research or experiments or scientific data to gather the information. So research is our big umbrella, and research might fall into any of these topics. We've got anatomy, so that's the study of the body, bones, muscles, organs. We'll spend a week talking about anatomy next week. We've got physiology. How does the body actually respond to the stimuli that it finds itself encountering? How does it respond to exercise? How do we know how to breathe? How does our body turn food into energy? How does energy get used in our body? We've got biomechanics. I like to think about this as the physics of the body. So lifting heavy weights or shooting a basketball or putting a golf ball, those fall under the idea of using our body appropriately to create an appropriate force or appropriate speed or appropriate velocity. Motor learning is how do we learn? How do you learn how to ride a bike? What goes on in our brain that helps create a motor program for us? We've got psychology. This is my favorite because this is my area of expertise as well. But what are all the mental and emotional components that go into performance, that go into competition, that go into your body's ability to perform at its best? We've got nutrition. This seems to be an ever-changing field where there's new information coming out very often, but there's still the basics of nutrition that build the foundation of understanding what it means to fuel our bodies. And then we've got sport management. That is, how do we turn all of this into something that people enjoy doing, that people can make money at, that we can ensure access and opportunities to the people in our communities. So these disciplines might be different from each other, but they all are also interlinked with each other. And the more research we do in each of these, the better and better we get at being able to be our best selves. So you've had a very, very brief history of kinesiology, an idea of some ways that it's viewed in kind of the spider web of the disciplines of kinesiology. But where are we now? Where are we in 2025? While kinesiology is often presented through a Western academic lens, the study of human movement really has developed globally. It's been shaped by culture, the needs of different places, traditional sports, and also public policy. So over time, kinesiology has really grown from kind of region-specific practices into a worldwide field that influences health, sport, and human performance across the world. So let's take a look at kind of how we've come to experience this global growth of kinesiology. Think about the different parts of the world. In Asia, ancient practices included traditional medicine, yoga, tai chi, martial arts. Those influences have since swept the world. In Africa, there were a lot of movement traditions. They were tied to dance, labor, and sport. European influences include things like gymnastics from Germany and Sweden, organized sport. In the United Kingdom, there's a lot of sport laboratories where people were doing experiments on people to find out what how they could best utilize their performance. In North America, it's really been more academic. We've got research at universities or different institutes. There's professional organizations that have been formed in the United States, like the American College of Sports Medicine, ACSM. So really professionalizing the industry. Worldwide, in the last 50 years, we've seen investments in sports science, community health, public health, our youth. That's all of you. How do we introduce the idea of healthy lifestyles to our youth? And then globally, we've been finding more collaboration across borders. So we've got data now, we've got technology, we've got wearable devices, we have drones, we have ways to communicate that we didn't have, even 50 years ago. So we can share things much more readily and come to some conclusions about the health of our world population in a faster manner. We also have the World Health Organization, which is an organization that advocates for health decisions across the globe. Some of the things that we're really seeing now with the global growth of kinesiology, unfortunately or sadly, is things like inactivity or aging and chronic diseases. As our population gets older, as we've moved away from manual labor and people spending lots of time sedentary, the plethora of opportunities to consume unhealthy foods or have other unhealthy behaviors. Now we're seeing some of the ramifications of that: inactivity, aging, chronic diseases. Those are now really shaping the future investments in kinesiology research. But it will continue to grow and evolve as we continue to learn even more about ourselves. So I've given you a very high level interview of an introduction to kinesiology, a bit about the history, how it's evolved over the centuries and decades, how we can look at the different disciplines or topics within kinesiology, and how different interests from around the world have kind of merged to bring us into focus now in the 21st century with the way that we are researching and spending resources on health, sport, science, fitness, and wellness. So for today's reflection, when you go back into my courses and you'll click on the reflection assignment, I have 3 questions that I want you to answer. These are all answers from your own opinions, so do not use any artificial intelligence. I want you to write in your own style. I want you to think your own thoughts. There are not right or wrong answers at all, and I want you to be able to share what you think or what's going around in your head about the introduction to kinesiology. So the 3 questions that we have are: number 1, what fascinates you the most about human movement? That was a question I prompted you with in one of the first slides. So what fascinates you the most? What is interesting to you? What are you amazed by? What do you say to yourself, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe humans can do this, or I can't believe that we've discovered a way to be able to do this? So what fascinates you the most about human movement? Of the disciplines that got introduced today, which one do you feel you know the least about? Anatomy, physiology, motor learning, biomechanics, psychology, nutrition, sport management. Which one of those do you feel like you know the least about, or the least comfortable talking about? And then question number 3 is, what's one thing that you want to improve about your own health, or maybe the health of the community around you? Maybe thinking about your family or your broader neighborhood. What's one thing that you want to improve about your own health? Again, no right or wrong answers here. These are personal reflection questions. You will type those up in the reflection prompt and submit that before Sunday night at 11:59. Next slides are going to talk about what to do before we see each other again next week. I will see you again bright and early Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. on January 20th. Just a reminder, the whole university does not have classes on Monday, January 19th. That's Martin Luther King Day. So I will see you again next Tuesday. If you haven't already, please complete the week 1 learning module. So the introduction to kinesiology, read through all of the kind of subheadings and topics that are posted in my courses under the week 1 folder, and then also take a look at the additional resources. Again, some of those are articles or videos to watch. Complete the video discussion board. That was due last night. That was due, well, if you're watching this on Thursday, that was due Wednesday night. It's a video introduction. And then you will be replying to at least 2 classmates before Monday night. Your replies are not videos. They can be if you want, but they can just be a written reply. But make sure that you share something with a classmate besides just saying, nice job, nice post, nice to meet you. That's not really a reply. I want it to be a bit more robust and a bit more collegiate, college level. So reply to at least 2 classmates before Monday night. And then if you haven't, you should already add the due dates to your calendar or your schedule. Or if you haven't yet made a habit of using the calendar feature in my courses, that's very handy. It will tell you what work is coming up or what work you have to do. But be mindful that we have 10 modules. Each one will have an assignment. Each one will have a quiz. So, 9 of the 10 modules will have a quiz. 10 of the 10 modules will have an assignment. But be aware of those due dates so that they don't sneak up on you. All right, everybody, thank you for your attention today. I look forward to continuing talking about personal reflections on kinesiology and how this shows up in your own life next week. Take care.